Hi, I'm Shira Schwartz, the VP of Marketing here at Quadpay, a buy now, pay later company over here in the US, helping consumers change the way they pay. Today, I'm with Larry Diamond, the co-founder and CEO of Zip, which operates in the US as Quadpay. Before we get into the title of today's presentation, which is "It Took a Pandemic to Accelerate America's Embrace of Digital Payments, Now What?" Here's a little bit about Larry. Over the past 7 years, Larry has been building a multi-billion-dollar company that's listed on the Australian Stock Exchange with the sole goal of disrupting the broken credit card model through using technology to create a fairer, more transparent and alternative way to credit. With over 10 million customers to date, 50,000 merchants operating in 11 countries and over 5 continents, it's safe to say it's been a wild, wild journey. Before deciding to disrupt the payment industry, Larry spent 12 years working in retail, technology, and investment banking, which I think is where he got a little bit of the idea to start Zip. When Larry is not building Zip and looking after 700 employees around the world, he can be found enjoying Bondi Beach with his 3 little boys and wife. But before we jump into the pandemic, everyone knows some of the incredible innovations that US has brought to the rest of the world. But Larry, maybe you know some contributions that Australia has brought to the US.
There have been a few. Obviously there's the Hemsworths.
Yep.
Can't forget those. The koala. Wi-Fi, in fact, came from Australia.
No way.
And what we'll be talking about a little bit later, buy now, pay later, all the way from sunny Sydney.
Sunny Sydney, amazing. So let's kick off with your view on how the pandemic has really shifted retailing in the US.
Look, I think the pandemic, and particularly 2020, has been an incredibly challenging time for many businesses and many in the community. And I think what we've seen is just incredible resilience by humanity, Americans in particular, and also retail. I think one of the biggest things that we saw last year in 2020 was the enormous flight to online. The online growth was about just under 50% year on year, which is almost triple the average over the last 10 years. And I think when you kind of look at what's happened, the disruption to retail in particular has been enormous. Supply chains have been impacted, having to ship to home from DC, inventory, loss of foot traffic, and so the disruption throughout the retail ecosystem has been enormous. I think also what we've seen is just consumer behavior and consumer preferences. What we saw in our data was no longer were consumers paying for the cocktail dress or the Friday night dress on a Friday, but there was huge growth in yoga mats and athleisure, things for the home, Monster soft drinks, and so you can just imagine how retailers had to cope with different inventory and different preferences. The other big thing that we've seen as well is really around fulfillment and meeting the needs of customers where they are. And another statistic that we saw the other day was 7% of American retailers were fulfilling to customers who bought online and then picked up in store. And that's jumped by more than 5x. So about 45% of major retailers now fulfill that way. As we move to payments, there's been huge. We've seen a huge collapse in cash, and obviously enormous growth in contactless, up about 100% year on year. And contactless really is a must-have for retail.
Yeah, it's pretty insane that you think 1 year can just accelerate growth in so many areas, and I think really change consumer behavior, not just over 2020, but I think so many of those new behaviors and traits will really carry through with us going forward, kind of post-pandemic. Maybe switching notes on a more personal note, what were some things that kind of changed or rattled you in your personal life during 2020 and the pandemic?
With 3 kids, I think last year, and I did definitely empathize with many Americans, having to do the triple work from home, parent from home, and school from home is called the impossible task.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. My wife is a stay-at-home mum, and so she was super helpful for us to kind of manage both the business, running all hands meetings from the home while the youngsters were jumping on my lap and doing all of that. But I think it's just showing the incredible resilience of humanity, and America's been in a much more difficult spot, and it's great to see the rebound happening right now.
Totally. And I think kind of touching on retailers, the pandemic really did force retailers to rethink about customers and how to become more customer centric when customer and consumer behavior was really changing so much. What are your thoughts on creating a real customer centric organization?
I think that's probably one of the biggest insights we can see from the pandemic. You know, at Zip, our first value is all about being customer first. How do you put the customer at the center of everything that you do? And the pandemic really, if you kind of reflect on what happened, these are trends that were there already, right? Meeting the needs of customers where they are, giving them what they want at the right time. And I think what had to happen is retail had to very quickly receive this feedback and then adjust business models to support ongoing growth. And so I think what it's taught business is really, you can have aspirations for being customer first, but how do you integrate the customer throughout the organization? So how are you listening to customers all the time, so getting the feedback? How are you then internalizing that feedback and then reacting, either delivering new product lines or new trends? How do you design the business around the customer, right along the customer experience? And there are some great businesses that were doing this well before the pandemic. You know, I look at businesses like Shein, that can look at TikTok trends and within 4 days have new inventory produced and shipped. Businesses like Amazon that are experimenting and listening to customers continuously and feeding that back in. So I think if it's taught us is really be customer first. What can you do to be listening to your customers, reacting and then responding in a very quick format? And as a big organization, it's super tricky to do that very, very quickly. So how do you embed that in the organization? I think we saw in the States, one of our retailers, Somersault, which is a swimwear brand, set up this emotional chat hotline to be able to talk to customers, see how they're feeling when they were stuck at home and going through a really, really tough time. We saw gyms and fitness classes adapt from physical to virtual, businesses like Peloton and Zwift, where you can go virtual racing. So it was quite incredible to see just the resilience of retail and becoming customer first. And that's what customers have always wanted. It just took a pandemic to really encourage businesses to react. I think the other big one really is then, as we talk about payments, how to pay, what to pay with, and when to pay. And I think this pandemic really has encouraged businesses to invest a lot more in the payments layer, so that customers have the ability to pay on their own terms, in the right setting, and using their own formats. And so we're really excited about these trends and see enormous growth ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with the workout from home. Kind of post-pandemic, I found it super difficult to get back into the gym when it can all be done at home. So I think these changes are definitely here to stay. Over the past decade, US consumers have gone through a lot of turbulence. First, the financial crisis, now the pandemic. How have these forces really shifted US consumers' approach to both debt and credit?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We looked at a survey recently around millennials and asked them the question, what does financial success mean to you? And 60% said being debt-free.
Huge.
Only 15 or 20% said being rich. And I think we don't give millennials the credit they deserve.
That was a good one, by the way.
Thank you. They've obviously grown up post the financial crisis in a world where cash rates are at their lowest in 50 years, yet interest rates are still between 15 and 20%. There's about $1 trillion worth of credit card debt, which is, it's quite an interesting number, the $1 trillion, because within the next year, US retail e-commerce is going to get close to $1 trillion, and that's $1 trillion that's sitting in debt. And so millennials have been looking at this, and it's why they are no longer signing up to credit cards, and we're seeing the average age of a credit card holder being greater than 50. Banks have not been able to respond by creating affordable credit delivered responsibly to this particular segment, and that's been really how Buy Now, Pay Later has arrived. An ability to get access to affordable credit, pay back in weeks, not months and years, that's interest-free and is responsible. And interestingly, many millennials don't perceive Buy Now, Pay Later as credit because you're paying back over really the month or 2 months. So pay back as you earn. And that's really been how how this particular construct has come to life, and it's completely disrupting the financial services sector. You know, many of the big banks are thinking about how do they meet the needs of their customers, because they haven't been listening to their customers, experimenting and creating the right products. And so, and where Buy Now Pay Later has really taken off has been in retail, because no longer are customers going into banks having conversations. They're shopping, they're engaging with retail and merchants. That's where they live, and that's where the marriage comes together.
Yeah, interesting. So for those people that are watching today, what is Buy Now Pay Later? Like, really go back to basics at the most fundamental level. What is it for a consumer and for a merchant?
A good question. Buy Now Pay Later, you know, is not dissimilar to the traditional credit card.
Yeah.
However, it allows you to pay for, let's say, the Nike Air Max, $160, and pay back in 4 equal payments over a short period. So you're paying back basically the purchase over 4 to 8 weeks, and you're paying back just the purchase. There is no additional cost. And so the ability to pay for an item and repay it back in simple interest-free installments is a beautiful match. And that's really how this particular product has taken off. It's fair, it's transparent, it's really easy to understand.
Yeah.
There are no hidden fees, and that's what millennials are looking for, and trust.
Awesome. So kind of switching in, or maybe kind of taking a trip down memory lane 7 years ago, is this really what took you on the path to create Zip? And maybe tell us a little bit about your founding story.
The founding story. I know, even though we are 7 to 8 years in, it really feels like we are only getting started.
Yeah.
You know, we spoke earlier how Buy Now Pay Later, that phenomenon really started in Australia. The ability to pay back interest-free wasn't a concept that was actually delivered en masse globally. And that's really where Australia saw the need to deliver affordable credit at the point of sale. But really what drove us to start the business was we didn't think the banks were doing a good enough job. We didn't think they were offering fair and doing the right thing. And we saw an opportunity to disrupt the financial services sector by giving customers the right product. But we loved the playground of retail. We saw a beautiful marriage between payments, credit, and retail. And it's really been a win-win, because if you think about customers that are checking out for the consumer electronics television or the Nike Air Max, retailers are getting another customer, they're getting higher baskets, they're getting a more engaged customer. The customers being able to pay back over time interest-free, and it's actually, and as a Buy Now Pay Later offerer, we're obviously having our brand amplified and acquiring customers at a very low cost of acquisition. So it's actually a triple win, and it was a wonderful place to start. We don't think the system has been designed to be on the side of the customer, and this is where we started. Now, we are perpetually dissatisfied. We have divine discontent around customer experiences, around payment journeys, and that's the heart of these businesses. It's around seeing where the problem is, spending the time, the technology, experimenting and iterating, and just building it into the DNA of the org. So, you know, we're in horizon 1 of offering retailers wonderful experiences, but we've got a long way to go. Fast forward, you know, today we're in 11 countries. US is a huge part of our business. We operate in the US under Quadpay, which was founded by Adam and Brad three years ago, on the same principles around delivering responsible, affordable credit at the point of sale and giving customers a wonderful experience. As I said, we're in 11 countries now: UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and you know, our vision really is to be a global Buy Now Pay Later company.
Yeah.
You know, offering retailers the ability to integrate once and offer these services across multiple markets.
I love that. And kind of double clicking into the US, how would you describe the US Buy Now Pay Later adoption?
Look, I think, you know, Buy Now Pay Later is really noisy right now. It's on, everyone's talking about it. You know, pretty much every major retailer is having the conversation right now. For obvious reasons. How do we meet the needs of millennials and Gen Zs? They're no longer using credit cards, right? So you need to offer them payment choices that are relevant for them. But even the big credit card issuers, they recognise that their products aren't meeting the needs of customers, and they're missing out on the next generation of consumers. So even though it's incredibly noisy, only 2% of online is going through Buy Now Pay Later. Now contrast that with Australia, which has been the pioneer of interest-free and buy now, pay later, where 20% of all online e-commerce is going through these rails. So we see enormous opportunity. If you just look at our US business, Quadpay has grown over 100% year on year, pretty much since inception, and is not slowing down as customers are gravitating towards these products. So our view is, even though America is a little bit late in the game, it is going to accelerate far beyond any of the other geographies. In Australia, if you walk down some of the major shopping precincts here in the Sydney CBD, you'll see stickers on all the windows, right? Whereas if you go down Fifth Avenue or Soho, there's a few stickers here and there. So our view is certainly over the next few years, this is going to become mainstream, important hygiene if you're looking to go after the millennial and Gen Z customers. So it is an enormous opportunity, and we're incredibly excited about the US market.
Yeah, totally. Last year I was shopping in Soho, and you just walk down the street and you don't even really realize that they offer buy now, pay later, and many of them don't. And as a consumer, you want your digital experience to transcend into brick and mortar, and right now there's just such a mist between the two. So I guess as the US is opening now over the next few months, it's going to be really interesting to see how retailers really adopt buy now, pay later in store. So maybe let's fast forward to today. The pandemic over the past year, as you mentioned before, has really accelerated online growth in general. How's that supercharged the adoption of buy now, pay later?
It's obviously been an incredibly challenging time for many consumers. And if we just rewind back 12 months, people were facing unemployment, a lot of instability, a lot of political challenges, and huge flight to online. And I think what you saw there was, one is buy now, pay later phenomenon started online. It started on the product detail page at checkout. As customers were now stuck at home, they were no longer going into banks and signing up for credit products and such products. They were looking for cash flow management, which BNPL is a great tool for. And how many new customers were entering online that had never shopped before, and slightly older as well. And so all of this together with, great example is my father. Never been an online shopper, and last year was really the first time that he started shopping online, and now he goes to Amazon every day. He thinks of something, he pushes the button, he clicks, and he purchases. So I think what we've seen really is, the flight to online, which is where buy now, pay later lived. A lot of uncertainty around the future and inability to have financial conversations outside really drove this. And interestingly, just in the last 12 months, 50% of all buy now, pay later merchants in the US have signed up. So it's grown by 50% just in the last 12 months, and is showing no signs of slowing down.
Exciting times, that is for sure. Harry, you meet so many retailers both in Australia, in the US, and all over the world on a pretty daily basis. What would you say some of the key challenges that they're facing, and how does buy now, pay later, and more specifically Quadpay help solve them?
So I think when we talk to retailers in the US, UK, and around, generally there are three major problems that all they're trying to solve. One is, how do we drive better conversion through the checkout? How do we find another customer, an incremental customer, at a lower cost than what we're acquiring elsewhere? And how do we drive overall sales revenue? So if we break those three up, conversion is a huge one, and people speak a lot about conversion, but probably don't spend enough time actually thinking about it. Buy now, pay later it lives on the product detail page. So if we go back to the Nike Air Max 90s, $160 pair of shoes, that moment of truth when the customer is on that shopping page, looking at the item, this is where buy now, pay later really comes to life. Instead of $160, you can buy now, pay later, or $40 times 4. And what that does is, it drives the psychology of the customer thinking, I can buy now, I can buy more, and I can buy better.
And you only have to pay for it over your next paycheck. So from a budgeting and cash flow perspective, it's a game changer.
Exactly, and particularly for millennials and Gen Z, whose economic wealth is actually growing over time. It actually marries up quite nicely. And the stats in the States show only 4% of customers who land on websites check out. So there's a 96% abandonment rate, and we've seen that buy now, pay later drives enormous conversion through the checkout. The second major limb to this is around the new incremental customer. We invest an enormous amount in the Quadpay app in the States to refer customers to our retail partners. We use personalization and data-driven methods to really make sure we can refer new and the right customers to our partners. We just ran a huge campaign in the States, led by you, of course, Quadpay Fest, which saw huge results for our retailers, where 40% of new customers actually came from the Quadpay app. So buy now, pay later isn't just the checkout conversion technique for the retailer, it's also a platform to drive new customers. When we advertise you, the retailer, to our customer. And thirdly, the increase in average order value. We see about a 30 to 50% increase in average order value versus other forms of payment tender. And that's why, we genuinely believe it is, a fantastic product for all segments. It's not just fashion. We do see ourselves at a credit card disruptor. So it's fashion, it's homewares, it's pet care, really any product that's looking to service the millennial and Gen Z customer.
Yeah, that's been particularly interesting for me over the past year, just to see the shift in how people are using buy now, pay later. I think for so many, they think it's really just about fashion and footwear and jewelry. And with the pandemic, because our online spending in general shifted, people have been using it for groceries, for food, for getting their hair done when they're coming out of the pandemic, Botox. It's pretty insane, the real kind of widespread usage of BNPL today. Let's fast forward to the future. What are some of your predictions from 5 years from today of where the payments landscape is evolving?
So bold predictions. So a few. I would say, first of all, US e-commerce is expected to exceed $1.8 trillion by 2024. So it's enormous growth from where we are today. So let's round up. I'm a man of simple numbers. Let's round up to 2 trillion in 3 to 4 years. If we take examples in countries like Australia, where 20% of all e-commerce is going through buy now, pay later, that's an addressable opportunity of about $400 billion, right? So think about that in terms of the opportunity for retail, and that is millennials and Gen Z. I think the other piece is, right now we are in the stage of payment choice, right? Fulfillment choice, one of the big themes, and then payment choice. Next, our view is payments becomes invisible, right? We're thinking about face pay in China, where you can hop onto the train, you can then go to the convenience store, and you can leave your wallet at home. Remarkable.
Take me to the future.
Amazon is piloting Palm Pay contactless. So our view is contactless biometrics is going to be a huge part of the payments experience, and payments really becomes invisible. It needs to be it must be an afterthought, right? You need to make the moment between I want to buy that item and pay for that item feel like magic. And I think that's really, it's beholden on us as payment innovators to really ensure that we can deliver this in a way that doesn't disrupt the customer from falling in love with the product, buying that dress, going on that trip overseas, and driving sales for our retail partners. So an exciting future ahead. Totally.
And as Americans are coming out of their homes, how should retailers be preparing for the return to physical retail?
It's a great question, because I think what we've been speaking about today is really the online phenomenon. I think there's a huge opportunity for physical retail, to really embrace a lot of the benefits that online has to offer, and almost level the playing field. You see, the online retailer or the online channel knows who the customer is, what their prior preferences are, when they like to shop, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in the physical store, if someone comes in and pays with cash, or even many businesses credit card, the retailers don't have that personal, interaction. And I think there's a huge opportunity, particularly if retailers push from the front and push to see more digital wallets. If you can push for more digital wallets, you can really understand the customer and start to deliver an amazing experience. And I think we definitely saw huge growth in the last 12 months to digital wallets and digital payments. About 25% of digital payments happen through the wallet. But if retailers can actually lead from the front and encourage customers to use the wallet, it means that they can range the right products. Wouldn't it be nice if you walked in and they said, "Hello, Shira, welcome"? You know, just that personal touch experience. And so the move to, you know, what we like to coin is phygital.
Wait, hold on a second. What's phygital?
Phygital. Physical, digital. Embrace all of the digital elements and try and bring it into the physical world. And I think this is the opportunity. You know, even buy now, pay later can have enormous share of checkout online. In-store is a little bit more challenging. It takes a bit of a longer time to ramp up. But I think if the whole ecosystem pushes for digital payments and wallets, one is you can have a contactless experience, which increasingly is just becoming a must-have.
And also more safer, I guess, still in a semi-COVID world.
Exactly,
so
exactly. And you know, these events are going to happen again and again. So I think embracing contactless, embracing digital payments, and in particular digital wallet, means a safer experience and an experience more tailored to and a more satisfied customer. And we know that when customers come into store, they do like to shop more, buy more as well. So I think there's a huge opportunity to really leverage what we've seen in the flight to online, meeting the needs of the customer where she is, and trying to deliver that in store by pushing digital payments.
Totally. I remember that first time, kind of post lockdown, where we were allowed to go back into stores and you could try on a garment in a store. It felt like such a surreal experience. So yeah, I definitely think as America kind of gets back out into the stores, out into the malls, out into the streets, there's definitely the need to kind of broach that relationship between the two worlds.
Yeah. And you know, many retailers might only ask for an email address, right? So if you, and at the end of the day, it's another customer touch point. If you're getting feedback from customers in store, what they like, and that can be fed back into product development, marketing development, then you can actually retain a really strong and robust physical retail ecosystem.
Totally. And I mean, one of the other ways we're seeing that is with the QR code. I feel like today I can't go out without having to scan a QR code wherever I go, and it's incredible to think what that can bring for kind of, you know, connecting the dots between the physical and the online world. So for those of you that have made it this far, congratulations. You definitely win some brownie points. But Larry, maybe you can just kind of summarize what should be the 3 key takeaways that retailers today should walk away with.
All right, it's the TLDR. Too long, don't read. Okay.
Or listen, given the virtual aspect of this.
Look, I think first and foremost is being customer first. Embrace that customer centricity. How do you put the customer at the center of your business and truly put the customer at the center of your business? Now, it might be really difficult to overhaul your entire value chain to be as fast as the likes of Shein, but what's the one thing that your business can do next week to become more customer centric? Can you have your marketing team, mandate your marketing team to listen to 1 hour of customer phone calls per month and actually feel, hear and see exactly what's going on? So I think embrace customer centricity and over time build that into your velocity cycle. The second big one is really around customer conversion, reducing friction and making sure that you think about every digital touch point and drive conversion through the funnel. You know, we spoke about not having the right payment methods and cart abandonment, and I think that's first and foremost. Have more people looking at growth funnels and optimizing conversions, because retailers spend so much time getting customers to the website. 96% abandonment rate, that's the opportunity.
Totally.
And the third, of course, is, you know, buy now, pay later really is good hygiene. We know that 30% of customers tend to abandon at checkout if their payment method isn't available. And we know that millennials and Gen Zs are no longer signing up to the credit card. So if you're going after that particular segment, it's a really important method to have at checkout and across all of your payment journeys. It could be in store, it could be online, it could be in app, unassisted checkout. Make sure it's permeated right across your payments infrastructure, which does mean over time investing a bit more in your payments layer. I think those are probably the 3 important takeaways.
So Larry, for anyone that's looking to find out more about Quadpay and adding buy now, pay later to their website, where should they go?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Zip operates as Quadpay in the US, so please reach out. We have a team of about 700, huge amount of product and engineers and marketers who love running around big chunky problems and solving new wonderful payments experiences. So please do reach out. And of course, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so don't be a stranger. Hit me up and look forward to building great relationships with you. Thanks.